Professor Nkechy Ezeh pleads guilty to $1.4 million wire fraud, tax evasion in U.S.
In a stunning fall from grace that has sent shockwaves through the education and non-profit sectors, Nkechy Ezeh, a former executive director at the Early Learning Neighbourhood Collaborative, ELNC, has admitted to orchestrating a years-long conspiracy to defraud a United States government-funded organization of more than $1.4 million. Let's keep the news rolling, but before then, let's ask ourselves these questions. Why do people love committing crime? Why was Nkechy Ezeh, a former executive director at the Early Learning Neighbourhood Collaborative, arraigned for $1.4 million wire fraud, tax evasion in U.S.? What's the next action to be taken by the U.S. government? All these questions will be answered here. Kindly like and subscribe to this channel for more updates like this. Ezeh, an associate professor of education who once held a position of trust and influence in early childhood development initiatives, pleaded guilty in a U.S. district court in Michigan to multiple felony charges, including wire fraud, conspiracy, and tax evasion. The plea marks the dramatic collapse of a career previously built on public service, advocacy for children, and donor trust. According to court filings and the plea agreement, Ezeh admitted that between 2017 and 2023, she conspired with Sharon Killebrew, ELNC's Director of Finance and Administration, and other unnamed individuals to systematically siphon funds from the non-profit organization. ELNC received substantial financial support from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services as well as private donors who believed their contributions were advancing early childhood education. Prosecutors revealed that Killebrew played a pivotal role in the scheme, acting at Ezeh's direction to generate, process, and approve fraudulent invoices for services and goods that were never delivered. As part of the conspiracy, the defendant instructed Sharon Killebrew to generate approximately $470,100 in fictitious invoices and submit them for payment, court documents stated, describing a carefully coordinated operation that exploited internal controls and donor confidence. The scheme allowed funds meant for vulnerable children and educational programs to be quietly diverted into private hands. Investigators said Killebrew retained a portion of the stolen money, while the bulk of the funds were transferred to Ezeh, her consulting firm, Pona Consulting, and other individuals and entities she controlled or directed. In what prosecutors described as a deliberate effort to conceal her actions, Ezeh also failed to disclose serious conflicts of interest involving another non-profit organization, the Early Years Coalition, EYC. Despite receiving more than $227,000 in grant funding, EYC reportedly did not operate any preschools during its brief 6 months of existence. Instead, court records allege that Ezeh caused EYC to pay out at least $212,658.84 to herself, her company, and other associates for work that was never performed, an abuse that prosecutors said further deepened the betrayal of public trust. The investigation uncovered yet another layer of deception with the creation of Global Open Learning and Development Preschools, GOLD, an entity prosecutors say was incorporated using stolen identities. GOLD was never registered as a legitimate tax-exempt non-profit under Section 501(c)(3) of the Internal Revenue Code, yet it allegedly received fraudulent payments for services that never existed. GOLD was never registered as a non-profit organization, court filings stated, underscoring the extent to which the scheme relied on fabricated structures and false representations to move stolen funds undetected. Beyond the fraud itself, Ezeh admitted to deliberately failing to pay federal income taxes on the illicit proceeds for several years. Prosecutors said she knowingly concealed income, routed funds through multiple entities and associates, and willfully attempted to evade her tax obligations from 2017 through 2022. The Internal Revenue Service calculated her unpaid tax liability at $390,174, further compounding the financial damage caused by the scheme. As part of her plea agreement, Ezeh agreed to forfeit $1,193,900 and to pay full restitution to both ELNC and the Internal Revenue Service, with final amounts to be determined at sentencing. Prosecutors described the case as a sobering reminder of how non-profit organizations, especially those serving children, can be exploited from within by those entrusted to lead them. The wire fraud conspiracy charge carries a potential sentence of up to 20 years in federal prison, while the tax evasion charge carries an additional maximum of 5 years, along with possible fines and supervised release. What has left many observers particularly dismayed is the contrast between Ezeh's public image as an educator and advocate, and the reality revealed in court, a calculated scheme that drained resources intended for early learning programs and undermined confidence in institutions meant to serve the public good. Thank you for listening to this news, and ensure to subscribe, like and share our news update. Complement of the seasons. Do have a wonderful Christmas celebration and a prosperous New Year.